Now available for pre-order on Kindle. Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Pre-order your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace on Kindle today. On Sunday, NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver Randy Moss delivered an emotional rant where he started crying in response to the ongoing situation involving former Las Vegas Raiders head coach Jon Gruden. Now, on the previous Friday, the Wall Street Journal had reported that your Jon Gruden wrote an email in 2011 in which he used racist language to describe the head of the NFL Players Association, DeMaurice Smith. Now, in this email to a former Washington football team president, your Gruden allegedly wrote, "Dumb Moss Smith has the lips the size of Michelin tires." Now, in response to this email that was written by your Jon Gruden, your Randy Moss went on an emotional rant where he started to cry. Now, when I take a critical examination of your Randy Moss's reaction on that show, it really, in some ways, shows how weak some of these black men in the NFL have become. Because for him to sit there and cry regarding a white supremacist who has openly disrespected him and every other black man in the NFL, this is not the reaction of a warrior class black man. No, this is the kind of reaction that a soft, emasculated man makes regarding somebody who disrespects them. Now, the letter that was written by your Jon Gruden was again, complete disrespect towards the authority of the head of the NFL Players Association, DeMaurice Smith, and it was meant to try to go out here and disrespect this man's position of power as the head of the Players Union, and it was meant to insult him directly. And the whole thing is that almost 9 to 10 years after this letter is written, we see that nobody really took any action to deal with the racist and white supremacist culture that is inside the NFL. And one of the reasons why I believe nobody wanted to take action is because so many of these black males who are a part of the NFL Slave Plantation, many of these males really don't, again, have that warrior spirit to stand up to these racist coaches, these racist owners, and many of these racists in management, and set a boundary for themselves and establish a standard for how they will be treated. I believe that many of these males in the NFL, like the slave plantation that it is, are stuck in a codependent frame of mind and believe that the owners have all of the power, when in actuality they have the power, and they could have easily just said, "We're not playing for this guy," if they were to find out about this kind of racist email and this kind of culture, and send a message to them that the billions of dollars they make is based on the labor that they produce, and if they want to get that labor from them, they need to go out here and show them some respect, because a players' union's job is to protect the players from disrespect like this from an owner. And this email just shows how little respect your owners and your coaches have for your NFL players, because here is a head coach who works with black players every day, and he feels so comfortable about talking about this black man's lips like this and making a racist statement like this. And that shows me again, there's a culture inside of the NFL where your white supremacists feel so comfortable and so secure that they can just flagrantly disrespect this man who is the head of the union, who controls the labor, that this man went unpunished for over a decade and was able to go out here and continue coaching teams for over a decade. That is a troubling sign And it's a sign that, again, there's a real weakness in these NFL players, that they just don't stand up for themselves. But that people are thinking about, oh, he got so emotional. But that's the big problem. He had the wrong emotions. He's sitting there crying like a little girl instead of getting angry the way a man gets angry, because a man is going to get angry, and once a man gets angry, he's going to take action, because he understands there are things that are more valuable than those millions of dollars that these plantation owners are paying them, and those things are their intangibles of manhood. And your intangibles of manhood, like your dignity, your self-respect, your self-worth, these have higher value than any millions of dollars. And that's something that these NFL owners seem to have no respect for. And sadly, we don't have many black men to stand up and take their respect inside of the NFL, because these codependent black males are just so scared of somebody losing their revenue stream. And again, a lot of these guys come from single mother households, so mama's telling them, no, don't mess with your job. But sometimes you have to stand up and say, look, this kind of behavior, we're not going to tolerate this. And it doesn't matter if you pay me $1 million, $100 million, or $200 million. There's a line of respect that I'm going to have, and if I do not have it, then we're just not going to play for this guy. And again, this whole culture is going on, and it's going on because a lot of black men are too scared to stand up, and this culture goes on behind the scenes. Now, the only reason why your Jon Gruden was fired from his job is because in the same email, he's going out here and he disrespects one of the commissioners, Roger Goodell, and that's the only reason why he was fired as related to anything. The whole thing is that this Jon Gruden and the NFL's management continues to have nothing but disrespect for black men, and what's really troubling is they're going to sit there and want black men to play for their teams, like the slave owner wanted the slaves to do the labor on their plantations. But they're going to sit there and expect that just because you give people some money, that gives you a right to mistreat them and disrespect them. Now, it seems like these owners don't follow the same God that many of them say that they serve, who says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, because in many of these owners' minds, they see themselves as God, and they see their head coaches as overseers on their plantations. And it seems like these coaches express so much contempt for these black players, and what's really sad is these black players don't understand that in 2021, a black man is free. And even in 2011, when this email was written, black men were physically free. Unfortunately, we don't seem to see any sort of mental freedom in the minds of these black men. And because there was no mental freedom, many of these black men felt like it was just okay to go along, to get along. And this is another example of what happens when you go along to get along. All you get is continuous disrespect. And what's even the saddest part about Randy Moss is he's sitting here crying like a little girl instead of standing up like a man. And standing up like a man is saying that you're not going to sit here and take my civil rights, because I'm going to take my civil rights back, and I'm going to stand up like a man, and I'm going to demand my respect, because the whole thing is, we are not having a codependent relationship where you're going to sit here and disrespect me. No, we are going to have an interdependent relationship where you will give me wages for labor, and once you give me wages for labor, you will give me my respect for that work, and that's going to be the end of it, because in order for me to work for you, I need my respect first. That intangible is the most important one overall, and that's what any man of character is going to say. My respect is number one, and if I cannot get my respect, then my labor is not valued. And if I cannot get the value of respect, then there's no reason for me to be here. Unfortunately, we have many of these NFL players who are just too scared to go out here and take that kind of stand, because when we look at the way these guys were talking in this email, again, casually expressing contempt for the black male head of the NFL Players Union, showing they had absolutely no respect for his position of power, having no respect for his position of authority, and basically seeing him as just another N-word. That really again shows how this game of football really relates to the game of life, and how this game of football just shows how many people in this game of life have no respect for the heterosexual black man, have no respect for the black man's money, have no respect for the black man's power, because again, all of these guys in the NFL, these are millionaires, but they're still N-words in the eyes of your NFL head coaches and your owners, who still follow the beliefs of white supremacy. And what's sad is, again, you've got Randy Moss crying like a little girl and not being a warrior class black man and standing up and saying, we are getting ready to stand up and wage war, and we are getting ready to wage war on these owners to let them know that they will not disrespect us. Yes, you may have billions of dollars, but you would not have those billions without our labor. And we can break this industry by just not showing up one day and make it where you wind up with no money overall. That's the kind of message that a warrior class sends. They go out on strike. And again, they send that message because they understand their respect is more important than a dollar, because you cannot buy the intangible of respect. No, the intangible of respect is something that is taken by leaders. And what's sad about the NFL is there doesn't seem to be any leaders inside of that football league as related to the majority of black men who play in it. And it doesn't seem like there's many black men ready to take a stand to be a man in that league, because you're going to sit there and cry regarding all of these guys disrespecting you. No, men do not cry about disrespect. No, men create a plan of action to take their respect, and they don't cry over a racist. No, they wage a campaign to deal with that racist, and they'll go out here and hit them hard in the pocketbook, because the only thing many racists really understand is the color of green and the pain that they lose when they lose a couple of $1 billion. And that's the only message that they only want to hear. So sometimes you just got to go after their pockets, and that's what many black people need to do with this NFL. And people like Jon Gruden not watch these games and send a big hit to their pockets. And that's how you have an impact on this culture of slave-minded owners who think that black men are big black bucks who work on their slave plantation and don't see black men as human beings. You have to send a message by going after their wallets and going after their dollars. And that's something many black men need to start doing, because we cannot sit here and be emotional crybabies like your Randy Moss. Yes, racism hurts, but you have to stand up like a man and push back. And you have to have the courage to push back, because being an emotional man, that is a position that's coming from weakness. And when you see a man crying on TV, that's not a man anybody's going to respect, because they're going to see that man as a weak man and not as the warrior he needs to be. Now, one of my viewers requested this video, and if you want to request a video, you can donate to my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box, or you can send a donation to PayPal. And if you want to pick up some of my books featuring positive images of black men who stand up for themselves, like John Haynes in The Temptation of John Haynes and the John Haynes series, you can find all of those books in the John Haynes series on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find the John Haynes series on platforms like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.